Hi, Bonjour. My name is Dorene. I'm from Bois Fort or Net Lake, Minnesota. I am a third-year student at Shingwauk University in Sault Ste. Ontario, Boating, and I'm a full-time student, and I am going to school to learn Anishinaabe.
And how many places have you found in the world where you can get Ojibwe instructions? Is this unique by itself? I know some universities have like courses in it. Tell us what's unique about this university.
Okay. Well, I was interested in Shingwauk University because one of the historical figures, our president, Daryl Bissino from ZB from Garden River, Ontario, attended our ceremonies, Three Fires Medewan ceremonies for about 3 years, and it wasn't until about the third year that he actually began to talk about what the vision and the work was to recreate Shingwauk's vision of having a teaching wigwam in Boating and the university aligned with Algoma University. So that struck me as a place where I would be interested in putting not only my effort to learn, but also my work to do community building, which I love to do. I'm from an urban area, but I also feel that there's a great need to support our spiritual work, and so I do that diligently through the Three Fires Lodge, but I wanted to extend that as well into a community that was going to have that as a base of study. So I was interested in going there simply because not only could I get the language, but I also then could be a part of a community that was looking toward more traditional lifestyle and activity.
I think I heard a fluent speaker, first speaker, Dorene something, said, "I don't worry about who I am because wherever I place my footsteps, I'm still Anishinaabe." So coming out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, an urban area where you've lived most of your life, and going to some place like Shingwauk at Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, is kind of in that philosophy.
Yes.
You take who you are with you, but you got to be surrounded by some pretty interesting people at that university, I would suspect.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about it, some of the teachers that you come across.
Well, I'm considered a full-time student, so I've had to take sociology, art, a number of forensic science, a number of interesting courses. The ones that I enjoy the most are the Anishinaabe classes or the Anishinaabe track classes, which are taught by our spiritual advisor for Shingwauk, which is, of course, Badwe Dorene. But it's interesting because I am who I am. So, for example, when I'm in art, I am viewing that particular I guess the art lesson, I'm interpreting it through the lens of being Anishinaabe, carrying the worldview, carrying the thoughts and the images that I have in my mind about how is art to Anishinaabe people within Anishinaabe realm of living. So we had quite interesting I guess exchanges because our teacher, for example, in art was primarily coming from a Japanese art background and was teaching, so when we would bring the Anishinaabe perspective, of course, there were a lot of similarities. But art, is a good example. I'm an artist myself, and taking a formal art class, of course, was really interesting.
It's interesting. I'm thinking we're on the Indian Summer Festival grounds in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and as we started this interview, we have someone that sounds like a Northwest Canoe, Oregon, Washington, Vancouver coast demonstration going on in the background.
Right.
Are you finding that Anishinaabe values, there's more similar values between tribes than there are differences? I mean, growing up as a youngster, it seems like we focus on, oh, we're so different from those people over there.
Yeah.
What's your experience?
Being at the university, we've had the really good opportunity to have Josephine Bendamen, who is the Waterwalk grandmother for for the Great Lakes. She also is taking all these other courses, and so we have somewhat of a native celebrity. She's very quiet in her way, and she's very humble, and she does anything that she's asked to do. But we've also had a surgence of Anishinaabe women and also non-native women who are beginning to work with the water, just for the fact that, you know, this is the kind of influence that we are able to have at the university. So we've had water ceremonies, we've had water walks, we've done a lot of work at Parliament. We've ended up being taking that work and showing young people at the university that, you know, who are activists and who want the same thing we want for Mother Earth, to, you know, to fight for clean water. So we've actually been able to increase the work in that area. Just at the university. And so the Native Students Association took a water, we had one woman I'll speak of real briefly. Her name is Joanne, I'm not good with names, so pardon me. She's a Robertson? I might be wrong. We'll have to get her name straight when we go back to see Ron. But she is an Anishinaabe who was adopted, came back to university, began to learn her traditions through Shingwauk, and graduated with an art major and an Anishinaabe minor last year. She began something called Glass Action, which is sending a glass of water to the Prime Minister saying, you know, 122 Native nations in Canada do not have clean water to drink. And so that really was a wellspring that came out of those Shingwauk activities and courses and spiritual events. And so she went to do that as her thesis and actually made a movie that is now being given to all of the Indigenous communities in Canada. So, and hopefully also to their townships and to their watershed districts, and anybody else that is, you know, has that same wish that we do as Anishinaabe to help somehow with the water. So that's just a good example. We have a very small community, but a lot of Native people that love to partake in different things. Like we have full moon ceremony there. We have water walk issues and work that we do collectively. We have some of the young women that entered at university that never were able to have their very fast work, you know, being able to pick up some of that work out of respect for that teachings that they received. So just a lot of different activity. We've had Meday family gatherings there where we've had ceremonies for different people that would like to have an opportunity to burn tobacco and have a feast. So we've done a lot of different things. We started a meeting, kind of a group of women that want, and actually it's not only limited to women, but we've had a couple young men as well. We have Ojibwe language lunch where we all eat together and we have to speak in Ojibwe. So there's a lot of activity in a very small place. And that's one of the reasons that I went there, because I could have studied at the University of Minnesota, but I would have been immersed in my community still, and I'm a real community activist person. I like to go, when we're called to go do work any place I go. So I knew that if I stayed in my community that I would be still absorbed with all of that community work, and I wouldn't actually be able to put the time and energy to focus on the language. So even though that's sort of happening at Shingwauk, it's in the language, so therefore it's, you know, it's very productive for me.
Miigwech for joining with IndianCountryTV.com on the Midway of Indian Summer Festival.
All right, miigwech.
Indian Summerfest is being brought to you by the Sequoia Research Center, Lakudere Band of Lake Superior Ojibwe, Menominee Casino and Resort, the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, the College of Menominee Nation, Lakudere Ojibwe Schools, Taylor Woodstone of Bloomington, Minnesota, the LCO Community College, the LCO Health Center, and Native Design by Dick Mendikowski.